As humans, we have this strange, unbreakable connection with nature, which I believe will always endure. Nature, and therefore the wild, both captivates and repels us. We admire its beauty, but fear its force. It's unmarred, untouched, glorious, but at the same time dirty, inhospitable, and disquieting. It's a funny tension. We build roads and buildings and cities to remove nature from our landscape. Yet at the same time, we dream of escaping back. For me, it's because I feel the most alive when I'm in the wild. And maybe that's because it's where my very existence is the most fragile.
Well, it's funny because, when Icebreaker first approached me with this assignment, I was kind of like, so that's it? Like, just go and create a photograph that challenges people's perspective of nature? And I was kind of waiting for what else? To be honest, it's a dream assignment. I mean, how often do we get to just create something, like from your heart? I think that's the place that you dream of getting to as a photographer, but it's the opportunity to collaborate on something that's bigger than just you or bigger than just them. And it's like if a photograph can live on because it can tell a deeper story, like that's all you could ever ask for.
What are we looking at here?
We're just down here.
Okay, cool.
Cook Airport.
So we basically came out here to try and kind of photograph one of, I think, New Zealand's most beautiful places and really challenge what people's perceptions on what nature is, right? This is the home of Icebreaker Merino, and really, I think so much of, what Kiwis are proud of is their landscape.
One of the cool things about the Tasman is there are two locations where we've got these ice falls that you can actually access them, whereas lots of other places they're too wild. Where we see the biggest changes are there are smaller glaciers. Some of those have pretty much completely disappeared in the last 15 years. But in general, I think that the change is accelerating.
Wow.
So there's been more change in the last 5 years than there were in the previous 10.
I'm really kind of leaning on you to hopefully, bring us to some of these locations that we really want to explore bits of the Tasman and maybe kind of check out, parts of Mount Cook and just kind of see what's available. I'm not totally sure what that image is yet, but I feel like that lake, I feel like I'm so drawn to because it's just it's so isolated, there's nothing that feeds into it, just the glacier itself, and has one tiny little exit river at the very end that's like it's like a pinhole. It's like somebody poked a hole in it.
Well, in the beginning, I never really quite knew what to expect. You come into it kind of like a surgeon, you want to make precision decisions and you want to kind of look at everything like with a fine-tooth comb, and that's kind of a terrifying situation to be in. As a photographer who loves to produce and loves to plan, it's kind of scary just to be like, okay, we're just going to deal with the weather we're given. We're going to deal with whatever comes our way, whether it's freezing cold or whether we're having to go way up on the glacier.
What we're in right here it's called an ice fall, and what's going on is that underneath the glacier there's some hard underlying rock that pokes up a bit.
I mean, it's so broken up. It's just like so dramatic. It feels like we're in some set that was designed this way. It's crazy. Big arches and caves.
Holy crap! This is insane over here. Max, tell me, who's over here?
You're gonna be famous on Instagram.
There's beauty in everything. And sometimes the most beautiful things don't ask for any attention. When you go out and you seek these places, you explore it from almost like a 360-degree relationship. You connect with those places and they become more than just places. They become a part of you. The most valuable experiences in my entire life have been the ones where I've been able to just sit somewhere and try to compose something that's hopefully meaningful, and that's the type of work that I dream about. I dream of being able to sit and learn to kind of be patient.
Oh man, I can't wait to see these things. Check it out. It's from the glacier.
To be honest, like shooting a glacier is, I don't even know where to begin. It's such a big thing. Like, how do you even document that? You have so many elements. I feel like my mind this whole week at a certain point just got desensitized to looking at this thing because it was so big and grandiose and beautiful and terrifying.
I still feel like we're just too close to it, you know, like we have this story we have to tell, you know, with an image, and I feel like we're losing some of like the key characters, you know, like some of the mountains are lost and the lake and the moraine. I mean, it's wild to be crawling through the belly of it, but I don't know, I feel like we're kind of missing some.
When you lose all the mountains,
To be honest, I think that I was ill prepared for just how much pressure, I guess, it puts on to like create something that I feel like is meaningful in a place that's so big. You know, you can't even really fathom. You know, you get to this valley and you look around and massive peaks, you know, the Southern Alps surround you, they almost swallow you up.
It's kind of opening up here.
Yeah.
You can finally actually see the entire edge of this lake. From these moraines, you get so much more perspective. These things, I mean, these moraines are like hundreds of feet tall. They're like, it's like the most gnarly vertical relief around this thing ever.
The glaciers basically carved its path and left piles of dirt and rock as we walked kind of along its hairpin ridges. We got a really beautiful perspective of the lake. At the same time, you kind of lose the relationship of the river and you lose the size of the lake, the size of the mountains. You know, you're kind of still in them. That was maybe one of the most unique environments or landscapes I've ever walked on. It felt moon-like. The most interesting thing, and I had no idea, is the lake has actually only been here since the 80s. Trevor mentioned he used to be able to literally just drive to the bull hut and basically take a little tow line and ski on the edge of the glacier right there. And now that's non-existent. Things so broken up and you couldn't even recognize it. You know, he remembers when it wasn't anything more than just a pond or a river, something that is so incredibly beautiful and something people literally seek out in New Zealand. But many have no clue that this is something that has kind of been one of the fastest receding glaciers on the planet. You know, I've been thinking about this idea of move to natural for the last week, and it's been kind of sitting in the forefront of my mind. And it's interesting because as much as it is a movement, it's a personal choice. And that decision, it seems so straightforward when you're out in the wilderness, but then you get back to the comforts of your daily life, and it's hard to like live uncomfortably when we can live so easily at the expense of the environment. And I guess the idea of move to natural is really, the goal is just to first get people outside to see how and what those decisions could affect.
The goal really for us is to kind of capture a photograph that really shows the beauty of the lake and the river, even though at the same time it's kind of a sad thing that's been sort of formed over the last 40 years. But I think if we elevate and we kind of stick to that left side of the valley, Mount Cook side, and we can hover just above 4,000 feet, right? Maybe climb a little more. So
perfect.
Easy.
So I've also got.
After exploring the Tasman Glacier by foot, by skis, you know, by boat, I felt like it was sort of necessary to take that last step and try and see it from the air. And I remember just sitting in that plane, hands are frozen solid, you can barely press the shutter. the relationship that you get from the mountains to the glacier, to the moraine, to the lake, to the river, it fully comes into view. When all of those elements sort of started to come together, it was a really beautiful personal experience. You can never really tell somebody why one image is better than another one, or why this photograph means something to you over these photographs. The reality is, it's kind of more a matter of what you have to say about it. It takes kind of every perspective. It takes being on foot, being on the water, being in the air to really appreciate this place. And I think when you finally come to that situation where everything clicks and the light is right and you feel like you're finally able to like appreciate it, you're not even really taking a picture in that moment. You feel like it was kind of at least meant to be. There's something to be said for creating work that's meant to be around a lot longer than you are. When you get people out into these places and they realize how much they care about the environment, you become somebody who feels a responsibility to protect it. And that's the greatest hope I could ever achieve with any image.